Hello and welcome to Profiles in Risk. This is your host, Tony Cañas, and today I have with me Tony Steuer, right? Steuer,
Yeah, Tony Steuer.
Tony Steuer,
Yeah.
best-selling author of, at this point, I can't even count how many, I want to say 7 books related to
Yeah.
personal finance and life insurance. And basically consultant in the life insurance side for decades now, basically. So thank you for joining me today.
A
How's it
few
going?
years. Tony, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. So basically, we had a great conversation, offline, I don't know, a few weeks ago, and I was telling you that my audience of largely PNC people, both agency and carrier side, especially like the agents, the PNC agents. I've worked territories as an underwriter, as a sales manager, and now as a recruiter in different parts of the country, and for different carriers, always independent, never exclusive agents. But one thing that I've seen over and over and over is that PNC agents are not good at life insurance, right? No, not at life, it's at life insurance. And I've never really understood that. The perception out there that I've heard is that selling life is harder than selling PNC since it's not a required product. And basically, I just wanted to have the conversation how for the PNC agents that listen, how and why can they do better at life insurance?
Well, the short answer is that life insurance is packaged so differently that it's a different mindset. And part of that, it comes from the life insurance industry, which has forgotten that life insurance is a form of insurance that protects against the risk of somebody dying prematurely. So when somebody is a PNC agent, they're thinking about primarily protecting against a certain risk. Is your house going to burn down? Are these other events going to happen? But when you talk about life insurance and you come over to the life insurance industry, people start talking about cash value and tax deferred savings and all these other things. But what they don't talk about is like risk. And I think that's the real issue, is that it's a different language.
Okay, so let's start with package so different. So one advantage is that commissions tend to be higher upfront, right? PNC commissions tend to be something like 15% and then 12% renewal. While life commissions can be like 65% for the first year and then basically nothing renewal, or 80% for the first year, nothing renewal. So that's an advantage for the agency for the short term, right? So part of the way it's packaged should be a benefit. But you're right. Once you start talking about building cash value, and then beyond that, the other things that where you need a Series 6 or Series 63 or Series 7 to be able to sell, right? When you're talking in investment stuff, then it really does get complicated. And yeah, it kind of obscures the fact that ultimately what we're protecting against is the risk of death. And I think that any agent that's been around for more than a little while would agree that when a client dies unexpectedly, not having offered them life insurance is not where you want to be, right? It doesn't feel good. It doesn't help the relationship with that family. It's just not a good situation, right? And yet somehow life insurance is not part of the average PNC conversation.
Yeah, and I think again, it's because of the whole sales process is that, when a property and casualty agency agent goes through their fact finder, typically, again, they're addressing a risk. Do you have a house? When was your house built? Are you at risk of a fire? Are you at risk of an earthquake? And they're dealing in risk. And when they come over to the life insurance side, they get a headache because, it's like, okay, well, you got to worry about a projection and this and that. And the property and casualty agents that I've seen that have been the most successful with life insurance are the ones who stick to term life insurance, which is purely protecting against the risk. However, some of the multi-line insurance agencies, companies, they want you to push the cash value life insurance because it's more profitable to the insurance company. So the PNC agents get pulled in multiple directions because they're trying to take care of their clients and protecting against risk, which is how they're trained to work and what they know how to do. And between the companies trying to sell these products that are super complex and that are not just about protecting against risk. So I think, when if you stick to a product that is about protecting against risk, like term life insurance, that it becomes a lot easier to adopt that into your practice because it falls within your general sort of job description with your client.
Okay, I like what you're saying, um, because I'm not a life expert. I'm a PNC expert. I got like a test and a half into my CLU, and then it got too much math for me, and literally I like Saturday morning with my girlfriend, both of us studying for CLU, and all of a sudden it just hit me, Tony, what are you doing with your life? I
Yeah.
grabbed the book, threw it away, and I wasn't. I'm like, you're not even working for a company that has life. I was at American Modern at the time. Uh, I so I'm not an expert in life, but out of I've never been able to understand from the protection side, from the insurance perspective, from the risk management perspective, how my perspective is my somewhat uneducated perspective. Let's put it that way. It is that term is the right solution for like 95% of your clients, right? Unless they're thoroughly rich and trying to avoid taxes at death, generally term is a better product, is right. Problem is, number one, whatever carriers you're appointed with are not pushing you and giving you tools to sell term, and number two, the commission on term is much lower, right? So if we're talking, dear PNC agents, please make sure you do offer term and get yourself at least educated on term. Then we're telling the agent basically as a service to your book of business, as a service to your customers. Now, the more you multi-line the customer, the more likely they're to stay. So you do get that advantage, right? The just the auto is probably like a 60%. I'm remembering old numbers back from my Nationwide days,
Mhm.
but like 60% retention. Add an auto, add a home or a renters to that, and now you're talking like 90%. Add life to that, and now you're talking like 99% retention. So it does pay for itself that way. But you'd have to sell a ton of term to actually make any decent money on commissions, right? That is still the way of the world on the life side.
Oh yeah, it's term life insurance, even though it might be an 80% first year commission, is the premiums are so low that it's hard to make a living. But when you think about that, with the premiums being so low as compared to auto and homeowners, it tells you the odds of your client actually needing the insurance policy. It's like I have earthquake insurance on my homeowner's insurance policy, and it's super expensive. The odds of having an earthquake necessarily aren't that high, but if there is an earthquake, there's a very substantial chance that it's going to be a full claim on my homeowner's insurance policy rather than just a fence that blows down in a storm. And so I think that tells you something as somebody who's working on behalf of your client is the premiums that the companies are charging. And we know one thing about insurance companies, they're very good at making money and they're very good at math. And they may not always charge the right premium. And that can definitely be debated if companies are charging the right premium. But overall, for the different lines of coverage, companies are charging a premium that they need to protect against those risks. And that's something to consider is that, yeah, you're not making a lot of commission, but if you're selling your client, let's say, a personal liability umbrella policy, you're not going to be making a lot of commission on that as well. But yet, as Tony points out, it's that whole package that helps you retain a client because your clients are going, you know what, I can get all of my insurance and risk needs taken care of through my agent. So that will help retain them with the retention and everything.
Yeah. So it's a different language. Uh, very good point. Very, very good point. Little known fact. I might have mentioned in the podcast once or twice, but I was actually Iowa life licensed before my life in PNC, like before I ever joined Farm Bureau as a claims adjuster, and just like literally sold nothing ever. But I did get the license, and I do remember that right. It's not a quote. It's an illustration.
Hmm.
It's not an endorsement. It's a writer.
Rider.
Right. I think those are the two that I remember where the language is significantly different from what I learned later in PNC. Um, so what's the easiest way for a busy PNC agent to learn the language and learn the basics to how to add it to his conversation? What tools are there?
Well, of course, this is a shameless plug for my book,
Absolutely no
Questions and
problem.
Answers on Life Insurance. I would say pick up a copy of Questions and Answers on Life Insurance. It's a reference book on life insurance that I created. It's used as a reference guide and by property and casualty agencies, life agencies, financial planning firms. It's also used as a textbook in a number of college level personal finance courses, financial planning courses. And I created, it's got everything you need to reference, like, okay, what is an illustration? How should I ask one? How do I look at a life insurance company's financial strength ratings? Which of course is going to be the same as PNC companies. But, it goes through all those things of, what is the policy? What should I be looking at so that you can spot those factors for your clients? And so when your client walks into you and says, I have this whole life insurance policy that I bought 20 years ago. What is it that you just don't stare back at your client and say, I don't know, what is it? And, that's a way to go. Of course, you can look on the internet, but as with anything on the internet, it depends on the source. There are some really good sources for information on the internet, but you always have to take it with a grain of salt for what you're looking at. But you can learn the basics if you want to by doing just some basic internet research.
Okay, and I know that some of your books have a workbook version, right, or companion. Is there a workbook companion for this one? And if so, how does it play along?
Well, there is a workbook version, and I took a step-by-step basis for it. So it starts off with a very basic, like understanding what your client needs. Then it goes through the process of selecting a policy. Then it talks about selecting an insurance company, even maybe vetting the advisor, which may not matter too much in this case, but it may do well when you're trying to figure out the distributor for the company or the general agency that you're working with. And then it takes you through the underwriting process for the policy, because it is a very different process for obtaining a life insurance policy than it is for obtaining a homeowner's policy. And then I also have steps for, like, okay, well, how do you monitor it? Because that's the other thing with life insurance policies. There's a lot of people who get life licenses and are out of the industry within the first 5 years. The amount of turnover is incredible in the
90
life
some
insurance
percent,
industry.
something like 94 last time I saw a number for 5 year.
Exactly. So, yeah, and this is a service tip. Talk to your clients about the life insurance policies, because the odds are your clients are going to have a life insurance policy that they purchased from somebody who's not in the business anymore. So, if you want to get in really good with your clients, or you have those new clients who are coming in and maybe even shopping you with some other agents, it's a get in just to say, hey, I can help you review your life insurance policies.
Okay. Even saying, hey, do you have a life insurance policy that you bought at some point? Uh, I can help you think through it if it still makes sense, if it's protecting you properly.
Exactly. And although I don't have it up on my site currently, I'm going to get it up soon. But anybody who's watching or listening to the show can email me. I have insurance annual review guide packets, which provide you with a cover letter that you can send to the insurance company to request. It's called an in-force illustration. And basically, it's a current projection of values based upon where you are today. And that's just something I sent to everybody. So you can take a look at that and get that going for your client to get the basic information for your client.
Okay, and that would be, since you mentioned your email, Tony at tonysteuer.com.
Exactly. Or easy to find me on LinkedIn, because my name can be hard to spell.
Steuer, by the way, for anybody listening and not on the video side. Um, okay. So that's the basic piece. Just get educated on the language, and at least offer temp every time, and that should get you started at least with the basics. Okay. So what's stage two? So I you know I I don't want to focus on being a life agent, but now I'm comfortable with temp. At what point
That term.
does it make sense to sometimes, when it looks like the client might actually benefit from it, bringing up the more complicated products?
Yeah, well, the more complicated products, the word complicated is right in there. And so you have to become a scholar of the different products. But again, you have to think about what you're trying to accomplish for your client. Um, where are you going? How is that going to benefit your client? Um, do you want to have to continue to explain why you sold them a cash value life insurance policy 5 years from now, 10 years from now? Especially if you're not sure it's the right fit for your client. So, yeah, you can do it. And there are definitely some cases where a permanent life insurance policy will make sense for people. For example, if they have a permanent life insurance need, if they have a special needs child who's going to always be financially dependent upon them, that's a very common need for people, just to get a permanent life insurance policy, put it in a special needs trust, and then there's always money to take care of that child's needs. Um, so there are going to be some circumstances, and usually the GAs will give you some sales support on that, so you don't have to become a student. But these are your clients, so it's good to make sure you understand what you're selling to them, because you're the one who's going to have to answer questions from your clients.
Okay. So you mentioned the GAs. So in my world, GA means general agent. I'm assuming that in the life space it's the same.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So basically, uh, do PNC agents always have access to, or as long as they're appointed to a life company, they do have access to a GA basically?
That's a really good question. I don't know how the distribution works, but generally, I'd imagine if you're with a multi-line carrier, um, I mean, with a multi-line carrier, if you're with um, an MGA or wholesaler that has access to multiple carriers, they're also going to have some kind of agreement with a life insurance operation that will also offer access to a number of companies. Now, if you're a career agent with a company, then you may not have access to anything beyond your primary company's life insurance products. And some of the big property and casualty agencies do require that their agents place a certain amount of life insurance business per year to maintain their contracts. So that's something to consider, is that if you have to place the business anyway to retain your carrier contract, is, do the best job you can and sell your clients what they need. You'll be happier, you'll sleep better, and your clients will, they're not going to read an article in a year and go, "What did you sell me?" You know, so that's what I would recommend.
Okay. Okay. Um, I haven't seen the stats lately, but the last I remember, is it something like 80 some percent of Americans are underinsured for life insurance? Is that still
Yeah, yeah, I love that statistic and hate it at the same time
okay?
because it assumes that those people need life insurance. So we don't know the true statistic of what really underinsured is, because they don't ask the question really of, does this person need life insurance, but they derive it more from, well, it's a percentage income, or they don't have money for final expenses. But if somebody has assets of $5 million, do they really need $100,000 term policy to pay final expenses? That's debatable. It may be a good use of leverage on their money, which is what insurance is also about, is leverage. But that's the wrong question. Is we need to take a look at the question of, do people have the amount of insurance that they need? Um, here's another one that's just what I'm thinking about it, that I think property and casualty people can really appreciate, is, if you ever heard, Tony, an insurance agent saying, "Yeah, you want to guarantee the future insurability of your clients, so buy a life insurance policy today." Okay, so let me ask you, Tony, you've been in the property and casualty industry for a long time. Has anybody ever been able to buy insurance on a car that they might buy someday and guarantee their future insurability for that car?
No. Mhm.
So that's a perspective you have to take, is you have to take a look at that perspective, is like, okay, what do you really need to insure? And is an insurance policy the best way to provide leverage against it? You buy, and I keep coming back to homeowners insurance because I think it's a great example. You buy insurance on a home because it's not money you'd be able to come up with out of pocket. Arguably, well, auto insurance is mandatory, but arguably, if you have a $10,000 junker, then you may not need auto insurance on it. I know you can let some of your coverages go on an older insurance policy. Auto insurance policies, that's kind of the same thing, is you have to think, okay, well, is this something that needs to be insured? And then is a life insurance a good deal for my client? Is it going to provide the proper leverage?
Okay. Okay. Awesome. I think that this has been helpful for
Oh, good.
it's so interesting. Like I think every PNC agent or most PNC agents that I talk to are just unhappy with the situation when it comes to life. Like you said, the carriers force them to do some life, and they generally feel uh thoroughly out of balance
Mhm.
on the life side. Okay, questions and answers on life insurance, easy to find on Amazon. By the way, as of right now, as we're recording, the Kindle version is 99 cents right now. So,
Unfortunately, that's for another day only.
oh, okay. Perfect. So ignore that. There are sales at times on at least the Kindle version, but yeah, easily available on Amazon. Check it out, take a look, and reach out to the life Tony. If you want those the research that you offered.
Yeah. You can ask me for the annual review packet,
The annual review
just to jog my memory. And sooner or later, they'll be up on my website at tonysteuer.com. But if you don't see them, just email me and I'll get you a packet. I have different ones for different types of permanent life insurance policies.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for your time today.
Yeah, Tony, thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure to join you today.